adversaries are evolving at blinding speeds. To thrive, we can't settle on survivor. We must evolve into something faster, smarter, and more agile. SOC teams need an evolution that helps them outmaneuver attackers and stop the breach. That evolution is now. Welcome to the AI Native SOC Summit, the next evolution of SIM.
Hello and welcome to the AI Native SOC Summit, the next generation of SIM, here today. I'm Jennifer Johnson, CrowdStrike's Chief Marketing Officer. Today, we'll explore how organizations are transforming their security operations to tackle the modern threat landscape. It's clear that in a world of proliferating data and fast-moving threats, legacy SIMs can't keep up. They're not scalable, too expensive, and lead to endless complexity. Today's siloed SOC architectures force security teams to juggle consoles and manually correlate data, wasting precious time. There has to be a better approach. Defenders need an edge that's exponentially faster and smarter. With AI, automation, and intelligence embedded at every step, security teams can make better, faster decisions. And they can achieve the outcome that matters most, stopping breaches. Today, you'll hear from CrowdStrike CEO and co-founder George Kurtz about his vision for transforming cybersecurity with an AI-native SOC. Then don't miss a dynamic discussion between CrowdStrike President Mike Sintonis and our Chief Information Security Officer, Justin Aquaro. They'll explore how we've revolutionized our own SOC operations with Falcon Next Gen SIM. Next, Daniel Bernard, our Chief Business Officer, will share how you can unlock the power of your security ecosystem alongside leaders from top security service and technology providers. Finally, don't miss a live demo by CTO Ilya Zaitsev, showcasing how you can achieve an AI-native SOC with Falcon Next Gen SIM. With a packed agenda, let's jump straight in. First up, we'll hear from CrowdStrike CEO and co-founder George Kurtz.
As I've always said, my mission and CrowdStrike's mission is stopping breaches. And I know I share a common view and mission with many of the folks in the room, but it continues to get harder and harder for defenders each day. Now, you may be wondering what this number and this time is on the presentation here. It's 2 minutes and 7 seconds. And really what that is the fastest breakout time that we have seen at CrowdStrike over the last year. And what it means is that an adversary focused on getting into a system is always going to try to break out and move laterally. And the fastest we've seen, the average is about 79 minutes. The fastest is 2 minutes and 7 seconds. Incredibly fast in today's environment. Now, the next number up is 31 seconds. And this is how long it took an adversary to download their toolkit and start running reconnaissance tools, and again, trying to exploit that system. So we know one of the real challenges in security is time, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we try to bend time in security. Now, one of the main problems, and in my view, one of the main problem in security is a data problem. And it's one of the reasons why I started CrowdStrike. It's why I created the architecture that we have. And it's incredibly difficult for SOC teams to be able to sort through this massive amount of data and volumes to find threats. And the real problem is that defenders have too much data and not enough time, right? It goes back to that 2 minutes and 7 seconds. So part of this talk, obviously, is let's think about what we can do to solve this. And we're going to go through kind of a little bit of history on SIM, talk about next-gen SIM, and then the AI native SOC. So let's just kind of refresh, and we'll talk about 2005 when Gartner came out with the term SIM, Security Information Event Management. And really, what does that mean, and what was it designed to do? Well, in 2005, it was designed to take lots of low-fidelity signals and alerts and put them together and try to actually find things that weren't able to be found in the past in the enterprise. It was all about APTs, Advanced Persistent Threats, and it was really hard for organizations to find them. So we had this thing called SIM. We're going to put all this data together and correlate it and figure out how do we respond to it. Well, the landscape has dramatically changed since 2005, and unfortunately, the SOC has outgrown legacy SIM. Now, what do I mean by that? one of the big challenges that the SOC has to deal with is what I call the data paradox, the dreaded data paradox. We'll see if this makes sense to the folks in the audience. And it really is the conflicting view between wanting to ingest and store as much data as possible, but balancing that with the cost. Right, so as many of you know, getting data into a SIM can be a disaster, turning your analysts and data wranglers. And then one of the main problems is that companies and organizations are making decisions based upon financial needs versus security needs. And obviously, we know what happens. So we'll talk a little bit about the data paradox and how we overcome that. The next area is speed. And as many of you may know, I really like speed, like going fast. And the problem in today's environment is that the legacy SIM has a hard time actually keeping up with the adversaries. 2 minutes, 31 seconds to get the malware kits installed. When you think about data and how much data we actually have to go through, it can take days to ingest data. It can take days to actually get through queries. So if you want to find and investigate an alert, you can't be waiting days, particularly when you're trying to triage an incident. And it all goes back to that concept of how do you bend time and how do you actually move faster than the adversary. And the last and most important is it fails to stop the breach. Many of the breaches that you've read about, maybe you've been part of, you've seen, probably had a SIM, legacy SIM, and it didn't necessarily stop the breach, right? So when we think about SIM, when we go back, it was, again, first used to get fidelity, low fidelity signals into the system, but then you needed to take action, right? So the industry came up with, well, let's bolt a SOAR, an orchestration platform, onto a SIM, and we'll take action that way. The problem with that is that the SOAR and SIM is really out of band. It's over there. You're shipping data, and you're making decisions not really at the tip of the spear of where these breaches happen, which are really around endpoints and workloads. So it becomes harder and harder to react very quickly and take action when you're out of band versus in line. So what is Next Gen SIM? You hear a lot about it. I'm sure you hear a lot about it at this talk. Obviously, you're going to hear AI all over the place. And I won't disappoint you because we're going to talk about that as well. But when we think about Next Gen SIM, it is really integrated into your security platform. I won't go into what a security platform is. We'll leave that for another debate. But it lives where your SOC actually does the work. And this is how we actually solve the data paradox, because what we see now is that many organizations are using tools and platforms like EDR, where they're doing a lot of triage and work, and then we got to ship it out and do something else with it. And that becomes costly, moving data in and out of the platform, and expensive. The next area of Next Gen SIM is really fusing data and AI automation. And this is really going to fundamentally change how we actually operate in the SOC. So what does this actually look like? And it sort of starts with changing maybe the understanding of how to actually get data at scale and do something with it. So as you might imagine, from the world that I come from, endpoint and cloud data is really important. And the view that we take at CrowdStrike is that that's sort of like the most important data to many customers. And what we find, and when we talk to customers, is that they say 85% of what they put in the SIM actually comes out of their endpoints and their EDR tools. So it's like, well, why stick it somewhere else when you can take the 15% and enrich it and then go from there? So endpoint and cloud data for us is the starting point. But then it's about third-party ingest. There's a lot of other things in the universe that you want to look at, security-related and non-security-related, but you want to ingest that data. The problem is it becomes really hard to ingest data because you have parsers and you have to actually get through all these configuration and changes, and it's actually a disaster to move data from one place to another. More importantly, it's hard to normalize this. So when we think about AI and what it can do in this environment, a big part of the solution is having AI actually understand what the data is, be able to ingest it and parse it automatically, and then normalize it. And this is one of the challenges in security that we have today, is that each schema from each vendor is a little bit different. So if you're working with a whole bunch of different vendors, we all call things different names. It looks like an IP address, it smells like an IP address, but we don't call it that, we call it something else. So a big part of Next Gen SIM will be able to automatically ingest data without knowing the schema and then normalize that, which is then going to really set up all the other components. The next piece is data enrichment. You have all this data, well, you need to enrich it, right? You want to understand what these alerts are, you want to enrich it, and you want to turn alerts into incidents. And think about how much time is spent by an analyst trying to figure out if the alert is real or not, and actually does it pertain to an incident. Once you have that, then it goes into, well, what's the workflow? How do you take action? And this is a key piece of the Next Gen SIM, is to be able to create generative workflows where you're really interrogating the data as opposed to, and asking it questions as opposed to clicking around and triaging through a UI. Obviously, that's going to be around for a long time, but the whole idea is ask questions, get answers. And then the last piece of this is bring your own LLM. If you have all this data in one spot, why ship it off to some other data lake and try to process it and kind of make your own machine learning models and your AI models, right? So if you can do that on the data that you already have, we think that is very cost effective and a way to kind of break this data paradox. The other piece is automated log generation. So you have all this data, right? We've got the data paradox, which is we want to store it all, but it's too expensive. From a next-gen SIM perspective, it should automate the log management routines. It should actually age out the data. It should store what's relevant, and it should always allow you to get back to and search for what you need over a period of time based upon your compliance needs. So the key piece, though, is that the next-gen SIM needs to break the cost productivity curve. Now, what do I mean by that? If we think about legacy SIM, it's a linear curve of using it, but it's an exponential curve of actually paying for it. And I've talked to countless customers that say, we want to ingest data, we ingest data, the more we use it, the bill goes up exponentially. So part of that is breaking this curve and thinking about next-gen SIM a little bit like your cell phone. Again, I'm old enough to remember when I had like 100 minutes, then I got 200 minutes, then I got 500, and then I got an unlimited plan. I was like, wow, this is so great. I didn't think about having to call my mom, and I'd have to wait till the weekend to call her. I just called her. And here's the problem in security. We make too many decisions saying, I like that data, I want that data, but I can't ingest it, it's too expensive. So cost really becomes more of a stair-step approach as opposed to an exponential spend. The next element is compliance reporting. And I would imagine this is a huge driver and a huge pain point for many folks in the audience. Now, what do I mean by that? How many times have you been asked to, well, we've got a PCI audit, we need to take all these machines and we need to report, are they compliant? We have HIPAA requirements, we need to report on those systems over there. We have a NIST control framework, we need to actually report on that. It's incredible what you can do with generative AI and the ability to say, all this rich data, please report this data in the format that I need, which is PCI, NIST, et cetera. Think about how much time that actually cuts out of your day. Just mapping all these frameworks is a disaster. So this is one of the areas that I'm really excited about. And then the next-gen SIM really becomes the operating system of the AI native SOC. And you're going to hear a lot about SOC transformations and what it means and moving from kind of the traditional SOC and kind of workflows into the AI native SOC. But ultimately, it's about creating a foundational orchestration layer that not only can support multiple security use cases, but allows organizations to build their own applications on top of it and really becomes the foundational element of a SOC transformation. So the question then becomes, what is an AI native SOC? Well, let's go through a few areas and attributes that I feel are important. First, it has to have advanced threat detection and automated response. This is like a prerequisite. I started the talk with, why are we here? We're here to stop breaches, right? That's the mission. That's why we're here. If we're spending money on this stuff, we have an outcome that we want, which is stopping breaches. It's going to analyze lots of data in real time, and it's going to detect really complex intricate sort of dependencies to come up with threats that have never been seen before, and also find things like 0 days. And it will drive an automated response, right? Isolating a system, taking it offline, patching, remediating, those sort of things. So the whole idea is, how do you compress and bend time in security? And this is one of the key ways. The second area then is predictive security. Think about probably just using things like ChatGPT and Gemini and others, right, is the fact that you can ask it all kinds of questions and it comes back with really interesting answers. But one of the ones that I'm excited about, one of the things that we've been working on, is predictive security. Where are the attack paths? Based upon the threat environment, the threat actors, my assets, my vulnerabilities, my configurations, where are the potential attack paths and what does that graph look like? And that becomes really interesting when you think about how you prioritize what to be fixed, right? Because in security, it's about, all the bad things that can happen. And then when you push it over to the IT teams, they care about what? Tickets, how fast can I close it, and what do I need to patch, right? So there's always a priority that has to go around that. Next is workflow automation. I touched on this a little bit earlier. Think about coming in to work and instead of like clicking around for 8 hours and doing a lot of kind of mundane tasks, you start to interrogate your next gen SIM and SOC capabilities. Where are the threats in my environment? How does it actually apply to my industry? How does it apply to me as in my company? What are the assets at risk? What are vulnerable? By the way, the vulnerable systems create a PowerShell script and deploy that PowerShell script. These are things that are happening today, right? When we think about how fast the adversary is moving and how they're using generative AI, you know what they're going to be doing on the other side? They're going to be taking the Microsoft patch, automatically disassembling it, automatically creating exploits for it, automatically putting it into an exploit kit, and then putting it back on the gray market. And you're going to shrink that time from a couple of days to a couple of hours. That's why it's important to have this level of automation. And then the adaptive security posture, right? The AI native SOC is self-learning, right? This is a big area. As a company, you have a lot of learnings, right? About your people, about your threats, about your own environment. You shouldn't just depend on, vendors to do that for you, right? The system should actually learn about what a malicious insider looks like in your organization. It should learn about the threats you deal with and how they're exploited. And it's part of the adaptive retraining of the system as time goes on. And then contextual security intelligence. It gives you situational awareness, right? AI is going to contextualize what you found. And again, turn all these various alerts into incidents, because from a defender perspective and a SOC operation perspective, it really is about tying sort of these unknown, maybe low signals together and creating an incident and an insight that's never been seen before. This, I think, is one of the areas that is really, really important to SOC analysts and defenders. The more context you have, the better you can protect yourself. I was talking to a customer just last week, and they said, hey, there was this kind of low fidelity alert, and it was really weird. And the SOC, and it was one that the SOC analyst typically was a false positive, but they ran it to ground, and they basically said, well, wait a minute, where else have we seen this? What's the context? Where are the IP addresses? Who's behind it? Where are the users? They're asleep. I mean, they went through a whole bunch of things. That was all adding context. They had to do it themselves, and it was all manual, but they did, and they literally were able to contain this adversary within a 10-minute window. And had it not been contained, had that one SOC analyst had not gone through this arduous process of trying to put context to it, they would have had a real problem. So deeper insights into why it happened, what the cause is, and what the potential impact. So putting all this together and wrapping it up, when we think about the next gen SIM and the next AI native SOC, it's really about the core operating system of the SOC, and it drives the convergence of people, workflow automation, data, and artificial intelligence. And if you haven't seen some of this stuff and you haven't actually played with, it's incredibly powerful. I've been doing this for a long time, and I really think it has the ability to revolutionize security, but more importantly, the operations of security. And I do get asked a lot, well, does that mean, SOC analysts are going to be out of business? No. You know what it means? It means that you can take tier 1 analysts and turn them into tier 3. You can take the 8 hours of mundane work and turn it into 10 minutes. You can take that situational report, the sit reps that you have to put together that take a lot of time, you can make them better and you can do it faster, right? And I think, in my opinion, the only SOC analysts that are going to be out of business are the ones that don't actually embrace AI. Because AI is not going to do all of this. You're still going to need people to fly the planes. We're not there yet. But what I would say is, think about it, embrace it. I'm sure many of you are. But for me, it's a beacon of light in security. We talk about threats and attacks and how things get worse. And I think finally we've got some good news in terms of helping the SOC have a little bit more fun and putting some rigor and process into stopping breaches. And that is the outcome that ultimately we're here for, stop the breach. Be safe, stay secure, and thank you so much for your time.
The AI native SOC is sure to transform our industry. So let's go deeper and hear Cloudflare's experience upgrading to Falcon Next Gen SIEM.
Ultimately, when people talk about SOC transformation, it's born of a level of fatigue with their current SIEM. My name is Larry Wiggins. I'm the Vice President of Security, Technologies, and Operation at Cloudflare. Cloudflare was using a SIEM that didn't have the necessary data sources. Getting new data sources added in was a multi-week endeavor. Getting alerts for those data sources was a multi-week endeavor. My team was spending the vast majority of their time in meetings trying to get new data sources added, rather than spending time generating new alerts and working on incidents. As we were looking at replacing our SIEM product, the reasons we went with Next Gen SIEM were reduced costs and engineering lift associated with log ingestion, as well as the ability to respond to alerts directly in the dashboard, coupled with threat intelligence across our entire environment. I think the role of AI in the Next Gen SOC is really, how do I cut analyst time doing not important work so that they can do the critical work that requires thinking, reduce burnout, which is rampant in incident response, and allow SOCs to perform faster. With Next Gen SIEM, we're able to generate the logs on system, have them available in the SIEM, and coordinate them with other data sources so we can do more meaningful work. With the Next Gen SIEM, the threat intelligence is made easier because when we get an alert and we get information, we're able to see instantly across the entire system fleet, as opposed to having to look at multiple data sources and hope that we can piece together a threat story. Often the biggest source of ingestion costs is the endpoint data, which has to be generated and then transported across the network. By moving to Next Gen SIEM, which already had the Falcon data available in it and no ingestion costs, we were able to reduce our costs associated with SIEM.
What an amazing story. With Falcon Next Gen SIEM powering the SOC for leading organizations like Cloudflare, they can focus on protecting what matters most. And now I'd like to introduce CrowdStrike President Mike Santonis and Justin Aquaro, our Chief Information Security Officer. They'll give us a glimpse into CrowdStrike's journey to build a modern SOC with Falcon Next Gen SIEM at the center, drastically reducing investigation and response time.
Thanks, JJ. At CrowdStrike, our mission is to stop breaches. From day one, we've been relentlessly focused on delivering this very outcome. A pivotal moment in our journey was the launch of the next generation of our platform, what we internally call the Raptor release. The entire upgrade was delivered seamlessly from the cloud. Raptor set the stage for our customers' SOC transformation, upgrading the platform with revolutionary native AI, lightning-fast search that's miles ahead of legacy SIEMs, and petabyte-scale log management to power the future of AI-powered SOC operations. Simply put, it's an absolute game changer for cybersecurity. Even more important to me is how we've kept our focus on innovating with an exceptional analyst experience. This isn't talked about enough in our industry. But this was just the beginning. Raptor was the foundation of Falcon Next Gen SIEM, giving you a single agent, single platform architecture that unifies native and third-party data with AI and workflow automation to deliver on the promise of the AI native SOC. What's even better is that our customers can modernize their SOC with their existing Falcon platform deployments. No siloed products to deploy or manage. And with all of your critical security data already resident within the platform, that includes endpoint identity, cloud, mobile, and data flows, you can save the time and cost of getting data into your SIEM, which is one of the biggest problems that organizations have with legacy technologies. I hear how transformative Falcon Next Gen SIEM has been. I hear this constantly from people that have been evaluating their technology. And to speed your own journey, I'd like to invite CrowdStrike's Chief Information Security Officer, Justin Aquero, to discuss how he built a modern AI native SOC with Falcon Next Gen SIEM. Welcome, Justin. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, Justin Aquero. I'm the CISO of CrowdStrike. I've had 25 years of experience in the cyber industry. Prior CISO for Cigna, Evernorth, General Electric, and really spent my career around threat intelligence, threat intrusions, and dealing with complex cyber intrusions, which excited to be here now, joining the company.
Excited to have you. I'm going to ask you the most cliche question in cybersecurity. As the CISO of CrowdStrike, what keeps you up at night?
I'd say, look, the reality is this company, does amazing work. We're protecting tens of thousands of customers. And, the real challenge for us there, too, is we look at the threat space and the adversaries. We've got a 62-minute, on average, breakout time for threats. We've got the fastest time we saw last year was 2 minutes and 7 seconds. So threats are getting faster. They're getting more complex, right? We're seeing more threat groups emerge in this space. So it's really keeping pace with how do we scale to keep the speed, complexity, and dealing with the risks and issues we're seeing in the industry now.
So, big challenge, securing CrowdStrike for obvious reasons. What were the biggest challenges when you came into CrowdStrike, legacy SIEM technology deployed before obviously moving to next-gen SIEM? What were the challenges you saw with that technology?
I'd say if I sum it up in one word, I'd say restrictive. When you think about it, even in my past careers, we were dealing with having teams of teams just to manage technology. We had teams to deal with log ingest. We had teams to deal with keeping the platform up and running. We had teams to deal with optimizing things. That's all waste. When you think about it, the most important things is getting the teams on the front line actually fighting the real adversaries and threat. On top of that, we had to make choices, right? Because every year it became more and more expensive, became more and more restrictive. And those choices, it felt like I was never in a good position as a CISO, right? I was always constantly making the decisions around what I don't log so I could actually meet my log retention limits and ensure I've got the right data.
So I want to ask about the experience of upgrading to the next-gen SIEM. Obviously, we use all of our technology. Great opportunity for us to always look at look from the perspective of the customer. How does a product install? How do you operationalize it? What was that upgrade experience like?
Right out of the box, we got benefits out of it. But I'll say, maybe just talk about the journey for a second. So one of the biggest benefits was the technology, right? What we're using, whether it's our cloud-based capabilities, whether it's our IDP identity platform, whether it's our endpoint technologies, the data was already there. It was in a tool that we're already familiar with. Second, onboarding our third-party sources was absolutely incredibly easy with CrowdStream and bringing that in. We also decided we're going to drink our own champagne, so we leveraged our services teams to help us do migration of content and also ended up migrating dashboards and systems like that. The end of the query language was very similar to something we've all know and love, and essentially leveraging that made it really, really simple. Frankly, the benefits right out of the box were amazing. Without even optimizing things, we saw substantial performance improvements.
So talk a little bit more about those improvements. Obviously, you've got the benefit of having access to our threat intelligence team, to our Overwatch team, and counter-adversary operations. But having all of that telemetry now that you have in one place, talk a little bit more about the benefits. Has it given you greater visibility? Has it made you faster? How has that helped you in practice?
Yeah, I'll give you a really world example here is like how often do teams often deal with, let's say, a phishing threat that comes into their organization and they pull it up, they get the alert on this thing, then they pivot into another console, they pivot into another technology, they got to pivot into an intel system, they got to go pull that data together. They're spending tens of minutes in a critical incident trying to even just collect data before they start to actually do the analysis work and start to do the high IQ work to really make a decision. So when you have natively integrated data in the platform, right, that comes right up for your analysts. It's immediately accessible. They're not gathering anymore, they're hunting for the adversary. They're not responding to fires, they're starting to get more proactive with the response of this. And that shaves off minutes in an incident response that are critical to making a key decision and preventing and stopping the breach. More importantly, too, just to give you by numbers, we are now at 2.15 petabytes worth of data. Next Gen SIM, we're able to search back a year and a half worth of data in under 7 minutes. It's incredible, right? We're seeing 7 to 10x performance improvements, and we're getting search queries on routine things we're seeing in sub-second time. It's just a game changer.
So there's a lot of benefit there, obviously, for the security analyst, but to you personally as the CISO, how is it helping you?
Well, look, I think the biggest thing we all face with the CISO standpoint is the most core thing is, are we breached? Can we ask the right questions of our data? So first off, I don't need to make those decisions. I could pull all the data into my platform, and then I could start to ask better queries across the board to have better decision-making around what we have exposure to, how we have exposure to. We can build better dashboards faster, and we can get the answers we need from a leadership level much sooner. We're starting to leverage the technology to really automate first, right, our incident response processes, and then after the fact, having our analysts go back and take a look at the exposure. This changes people from doing incident analysis to attack to campaign analysis, right, and really gets us more proactive as we go forward here. And then when we have all this information, right, and you're able to take things like Spotlight and take a look at your infrastructure, you're able to take a look at the compliance capabilities we have natively in the endpoint, you're able to answer better questions to our regulators and our insurers. So it's quite substantial what you can get when you really have an integrated platform like this.
So I want to do a quick pivot and bring in AI to the conversation. We got to do it. But, for me, I see a lot of promise with how AI can help in a SOC, especially in a next-gen style SOC. And there's many different ways that you can get that benefit, but taking lots and lots of data to help you make decisions faster. I think the promise of having AI help write compliance reports, really good at solving that sort of problem, get analysts to go through checklists. Talk me through how you envision a modern AI native SOC looks like.
Well, first off, it's the future. If we continue to execute and operate the way we operate SOCs today, 10 years from now, we will absolutely lose. We're seeing adversaries leveraging AI. We're seeing adversaries leverage automation to their advantage, and we really need to be able to leverage this technology for ourselves. And the key differentiator is it's always been built into the platform, but now how do we make it more accessible to the analysts directly, right, as we go forward? In the future, right, as we think about this, think about automated QA of your analysts. Think about decision empowerment for our analysts. There's a big problem we have in the industry of finding the right qualified people to sit in these roles, right? Can you get analysts to be more up to speed fast to provide value in your organization instead of doing months worth of training, doing days worth of training to get them on speed to make better decisions in the environment? Those are key things. Think about how much waste goes into incident response and dealing with trying to document these things. And we know with the current regulatory landscape, documentation is absolutely going to be critical. So your point on how do you auto-generate those documents, and then how do you really have your analysts, again, focusing on the high IQ work on really doing incident response, threat hunting, and starting to move that past. I really see a transformation happening here, and it's kind of a bit of a flywheel effect, which is how do we empower our analysts to get out of the day-to-day firefighting and more into that fire marshal mode, where they're really looking and doing threat hunting. They're really looking at how do they proactively stop stuff in the environment rather than just waiting for an incident or attack to happen and then starting to triage it and respond to it. And that's the way we start to win. And I think this capability is really, it's not 10 years out, it's now. And that's the key part. That's the exciting part about this.
Justin, thank you so much for joining us. Super excited to hear the benefit that you're getting. Seeing how our own products are helping make your life easier is incredibly important. Look forward to chatting to you soon.
Thank you.
I learned a lot from that session. One of the most powerful things that we can do as a community of cybersecurity leaders is to share. And sharing is something that I talk a lot about, sharing best practices, adversary techniques, how we are collectively transforming our operations to meet the challenge of today's modern attacks gives us all an edge, which is why this is so important for us. So it's clear that the SOC must transform, and CrowdStrike is your partner along with every step of your journey. As I shared at the beginning, we unify native and third-party data with AI and workflow automation to deliver on the promise of the AI native SOC today and into the future. We've designed this capability around a modern analyst experience, and I'd like to invite you all to join this next generation of CrowdStrike technology, experience Falcon Next Gen SIEM, and see how we can help you detect, investigate, and respond to threats faster with a truly modern platform. JJ, back to you.
Thanks, Mike and Justin. Now, I'd like to introduce Daniel Bernard, CrowdStrike's Chief Business Officer, who will share how you can unlock the power of your security ecosystem with CrowdStrike Falcon Next Gen SIEM.
Thanks, JJ. I'm Daniel Bernard, Chief Business Officer at CrowdStrike. You've heard from George how AI and automation are giving security teams the speed and efficiency they need to stop breaches. And from Mike and Justin, how CrowdStrike has modernized its SOC with Falcon Next Gen SIEM. But now you might be wondering how it will work in your environment with your existing tools from across your business. And will you get the help you need to migrate to a new SOC platform, to move to Next Gen SIEM? We've got you covered with the power of the crowd. We're excited to introduce our new and swiftly growing Next Gen SIEM Partner Ecosystem Program. We've partnered with leading managed service providers, global system integrators, and security vendors around the globe. Together, we're delivering powerful joint solutions, integrations, and services that help you supercharge your Next Gen SIEM experience with Falcon. We're providing tested and validated integrations across a broad set of IT and security products. That means you can rely on Falcon Next Gen SIEM to collect and process in-depth data from all your favorite firewall and email security vendors, from your identity and access management providers, from your secure access service edge and your network detection and response providers. It is our mission to give you unlimited visibility by supporting all the different technologies in your environment, those not only within the Falcon platform, but from third-party leading ISVs as well. And if you discover a data source we don't support, then we want to make it easy for you to bring that data in through integrated data engines like CrowdStream, powered by Cribble, as well as through onboarding services delivered by our partners. How will we do it? Well, we've joined forces with services partners to deliver local services to you. We're training and certifying these partners so you will know you're working with Falcon Next Gen SIEM experts. They will help you get up and running, tune correlation rules, create custom dashboards for your needs, and so much more. With our Next Gen SIEM ecosystem partners, you will get the support you need to achieve success. Don't take our word for it. Hear it from the partners yourself.
Our customers are looking to reduce mean time to detection and mean time to response.
They're looking for a unified approach to security.
The ability to bring in large amounts of data at speed, at scale.
To innovate, understand where their threats exist within their business.
Looking to modernize their security operations capabilities.
The biggest challenge they have is to stay ahead of threats because of the changing landscape of AI. Signature-based techniques are not working anymore. CrowdStrike's Next Gen SIEM shows end-to-end picture to the SOC analyst, full visibility across the attack surface.
You now actually have insight into how all of this different data, information, flow logs exist.
The ability to log everything, to bring that information to bear for our security teams.
And when you have better actionable insights, guess what? You'll have better and faster threat detection and response, which makes the analyst more efficient, lowering mean time to detect and mean time to respond.
Network data unifies and provides the ability for long-term threat hunting, behavioral analysis, and post-event investigation and forensics.
So our hunters can do more work to understand what adversaries might be doing in the environment and stop them before they can be disruptive.
And really, from a security practitioner standpoint, that's what you're looking for. You're looking to be enabled by the technology that you've got.
CrowdStrike has always proven to be a partner that understands how to innovate without slowing things down for the sake of security.
If I were to use a single phrase to describe the partnership and this integration with Next Gen SIEM, I would say best in class.
I would say it's dynamic.
Innovation.
Alignment.
Trust.
Transformation.
As you can see, we've partnered with some of the world's top security providers so you can effortlessly integrate Falcon Next Gen SIEM with your entire security stack, giving you complete visibility and protection across your ecosystem. Now, are you ready to see Falcon Next Gen SIEM in action? I'll hand it back to JJ to set us up for a first-hand look.
Thanks, DB. Now, I couldn't be more excited to welcome Ilya Zaitsev, our Chief Technology Officer, to see how CrowdStrike is delivering a modern SOC platform today with Falcon Next Gen SIM. Let's see it in action.
Thanks, JJ. I've had the opportunity to meet with hundreds of CrowdStrike customers, as well as closely with our own IR, MDR, and threat hunting teams to create a new paradigm for detection response, designed around the security analyst experience with AI at its core. Let's dive into the world of a security analyst and see how Falcon Next Gen SIM helps them stop the breach faster than ever. We start with one of the most common, effective attacks we see today, a spear phishing email designed to steal legitimate credentials to bypass traditional controls. Now, for this demo, we've turned prevention off in the CrowdStrike platform, where the attack would have been stopped at multiple points across both identity and endpoint, and that would be a pretty short and boring demo. We kick off the workflow in Falcon Next Gen SIM, and we know that stopping the breach starts with getting the data in. With Next Gen SIM, you've already got the vast majority of security data already in the Falcon platform, with native data from endpoints, identity, cloud, mobile, and data flows, eliminating the time and complexity of data ingestion. And you can extend your visibility with an ecosystem of third-party partners that are nearly effortless to integrate. Here, you can see we've enabled both email security and SSE vendors, as well as others that we will use to investigate the attack. As an analyst, we begin with a MITRE ATT&CK heat map to orient, which shows us that there are 49 phishing detections to triage. Now we can prioritize. Instantly, we can see a high-severity identity detection associated with the adversary Odyssey Spider that requires immediate attention. From here, we move from the detection to an incident, which groups all related alerts from both CrowdStrike and third-party sources into a single view. The incident tells the story of the attack, with indicators showing access of a cloud account, a phishing email with a malicious attachment, command and control activity, suspicious web proxy activity, and it ends in the execution of PowerShell on the endpoint. The incident unifies data from CrowdStrike endpoint and identity sources with email and SSE vendors to help you rapidly understand the full scope of the attack. Next, we pivot into the timeline view to understand the exact sequence of their attack path. Now, we know that this is an incident started with an identity detection, followed by email, web, and ultimately the endpoint. Here's where it gets interesting, and we've truly reimagined the analyst experience with Incident Workbench. This is an elegant graph that automatically builds the visual relationships between every related indicator to speed investigation, threat hunting, and ultimately stopping the breach. Now, with Legacy SIM, creating this graph would have taken hours you don't have during a real-life attack. Let's start by investigating the phishing email with a malicious attachment to find the domains being used by this attacker. You can hover to uncover more about each entity or click to dive deeper. As part of Incident Workbench, we've used generative AI to automate every analyst's favorite part of their job, documentation. Investigate with Charlotte AI provides a plain language summary of the incident, saving hours of manual work. You can see that the attacker gained access when a user executed a suspicious PDF file, followed by lateral movement via RDP. Charlotte also sweeps Falcon to identify related indicators you can add to the incident. In this case, we found multiple additional hosts, which we will add to the incident by accepting the suggestions. Next, NGSIM allows us to enrich indicators with integrated threat intelligence for complete context. We've added details about the adversary, Odyssey Spider, to the malicious domain. You can rapidly pivot into a full dossier on the adversary to understand their tradecraft and motivations. From the full adversary report, we will investigate other potential indicators of compromise, or IOCs, by mapping their actions to the MITRE ATT&CK matrix. You can proactively identify potential gaps commonly used by Odyssey Spider. As you know, you're being targeted by them. Next, you can use advanced event search to determine if additional users have accessed the malicious domains in the past year across terabytes of data within seconds, simply impossible for Legacy SIM. We will extend that search timeframe to a year and use the CrowdStrike query language, or CQL, to search, aggregate, and visualize the results. Stopping breaches is easiest when you do it together. Next Gen SIM allows you to collaborate in real time with your team for a coordinated response. You can sign incidents, understand who is working them, and get full lifecycle reporting. To keep track of the incident, we will assign it to ourselves, and you can see other analysts working the attack in the background. Looking at all the evidence across email, identity, web, and endpoint data sources, we can see that the user has been compromised. Using Incident Workbench, we see a number of endpoint detections, revealing that the adversary utilized the compromised account for several malicious activities, including credential dumping and executing malicious files via PowerShell. Now, you can secure the compromised account by executing a workflow with Falcon Fusion SOAR that verifies the user identity, requires a password reset, and sends a notification. Initiate the remediation workflow from the Incident Workbench and watch Falcon Fusion SOAR send a notification confirming the password reset. Finally, we need to close the loop in Mimecast, Zscaler, and identity protection to prevent future attacks. We run workflows to block the sender, add the user to a restricted internet access group, and add them to a watch list in identity protection. We've drastically accelerated detection, investigation, and response with Next Gen SIEM to stop the breach across both Falcon as well as third-party tools and platforms. We are delivering the future of the AI native SOC, and it's here today. We're helping you transform your security operations. Come and join us on the journey. JJ, back over to you.
Thank you, Ilya. That was a fantastic demo. I know you are all eager to know when you can take Falcon Next Gen SIEM for a test drive and see the amazing analyst experience, AI-powered insights, workflow automation, and blazing fast search capabilities in your own environment. The good news is you can, right now, if you're a CrowdStrike customer. Many of the extraordinary features Ilya showed you are available with Falcon Platform data, using the native data from your endpoints, identities, and cloud. It's all there, ready for you today, at no additional cost. This is true SOC transformation at your fingertips. While Falcon data is powerful, you can also bring in third-party data for a complete SOC experience. To speed your journey to the AI native SOC, we will be offering every CrowdStrike customer 10 gigabytes of third-party data per day, so you can experience how Falcon Next Gen SIEM will help you stop the breach faster than ever. I'd also like to invite you to learn more with the resources here in the AI Native SOC Summit console to help you get started with Falcon Next Gen SIEM. Thank you for attending the AI Native SOC Summit. We will see you again very soon.
The complexities of the past are no longer a barrier to securing the future. The promise of modern SOC operations is finally here. Complete data, better decisions, automated workflows, faster response. So we can stop adversaries in their tracks. That's the power of the AI native SOC. Step into the future with Next Gen SIEM.